Very dark.
The TA-11 Acog is the middle child of Trichicon's lineup. It gives up a lot of what makes the TA-31 cool in favor of some additional usability. It's the porky younger brother that doesn't really feel a niche, but it's not bad enough at where you'd want to put it up for adoption, or worse.
Someone ought to put you in a mental hospital.
Someone should put you in a box floating down the river, Grandma!
You're probably right.
Full disclosure, I got this optic from Andrew, the biggest supporter of the channel, and he only sends me stuff that he plans to sell. So if you notice a certain slant with these reviews, well, great minds think alike. The TA-11, if you aren't familiar, was born the same year I was, so we're both about to hit our 30th anniversary. Yay! The TA-11 is the 3.5 by 35mm version, sacrificing a ton of field of view for more than double the eye relief of the cooler TA-31. Trichicon, being Trichicon, offers about 30 different versions of the TA-11 with different reticles, mounts, colors, illumination types, and the like. My version is the red fiber optic with the 556 BDC, and actually they offer 2 or 3 different 556 BDCs if you want to get really autistic about it. Now, other than the additional eye relief, the TA-11 also got bigger and heavier. The bigger Ford 7075 aluminum housing pushes the weight up to 14 ounces without the mount and about 18 ounces with the TA-51 thumbscrew mount seen here, which isn't all that heavy in the grand scheme of things, but the TA-31 again comes in at around 11 ounces sans the mount, so you're gaining some of that weight back. The turrets are capped and dummy corded, which is dummy coated for the Marines out there. The turrets underneath are supposedly in half MOA increments, but they seemed coarser to me when zeroing. If you want to support the slow descent of my mental state streamed live for your viewing pleasure, check out my subscribe star. Now, running along the top of the body, we have our fiber optic cable that feeds light into the top half of the reticle. It's extremely effective and is bright in almost any environment. Even indoors with limited light, it's almost always picking up enough light to illuminate the reticle, and when there isn't ambient light, these come with tritium inserts, which should work for about a decade or approximately 3 marriages to a guy named Mike. But I don't think a single human would want to passively aim through one of these to begin with. Some people cover up the fiber optic cable with electrical tape to turn down the illumination, but I prefer it at its maximum. It's never bloomed out to me personally, but again, that's probably a user preference. Talking about the TA-51 mount, you have 2 substantial thumb screws to torque down the optic to your rail, again, very dummy coated. Extremely simple, extremely robust. If you don't like the additional weight and bulk, there are plenty of aftermarket options that fix both of those things. Now, as far as controls go, that's it. You have turrets to zero and thumb screws to torque down. That's it. No batteries, no illumination controls, no diopter. Well, actually that last one may be problematic for some of you. So now let's go ahead and talk about using the thing and why I like it, but don't really love it. Eye relief seems comfortable between 3 and 4 inches with a relatively forgiving eye box. The optic also sits up a little higher than you might think. I believe it's just under 1.8 inches centerline, so it's actually very comfy on most setups, even a bullpup. Now, as a sacrifice to get that forgiveness in the eye relief and eye box, they gave up 50% of your field of view, literally. The TA-11 has a field of view of 29 feet at 100 yards at 3.5 magnification. The TA-31 has a field of view of 38 feet at 100 yards at 4x magnification. Now, if you normalize them at 1x at 100 yards, it would be 101 feet for the TA-11 and 150 feet for the TA-31. Now, keep in mind, this isn't a fair comparison, and we're calculating the area of a circle, but point being, the TA-11 on my scale barely has an acceptable field of view, worse than the primary arms micros for about the same usability. But one thing those cheap commie bastards can't replicate yet is the glass. This TA-11 still has good-looking glass. Better than the Elcan, that's not saying much, better than any Chinese prism that I have seen, and better than most LPVOs. You get it, it's pretty good glass. Colors are bright, the image overall is punchy and crisp, there's little chromatic aberration or distortion to speak of, I just wish there was more of it. The reticle in mine is the 556 BDC, which I used on both an old LWRC piston rifle and the Knight's SR-15 out to about 600 yards. The reticle checks out plus or minus a little bit with my ammo. Now, I don't love the bottom of the chevron cutting down so far, as it occludes a little bit more than I would like for mid-range shots on smaller targets. It's an extremely bare-bones simple reticle, but remember, the target audience is the reason they make crayons ready to eat. I like some of the other reticle options more, but it is fine. Now, of course, the biggest comparison is going to be to the older TA-31, which we've mentioned about 10 times now. which when looking through is a much more pleasant image. There is something very satisfying about seeing a huge magnified image in great detail. Now, to see that image through the TA31, your eyeball has to have Lovecraftian intercourse with the lens, but what a small sacrifice to make. Now on mine, you notice that I was usually running a top dot of some ilk, and while that does work, the height over bore is taller than Reno's forehead. So watch your offset. These can sometimes be found for under $1,000 new on sale, and secondhand the deals aren't bad. If you wait your turn for an abused TA11 and get a decent top dot, well, you can probably fix that stack for less than $1,000. And for a durable and somewhat versatile setup, it ain't half bad, and it looks kinda cool as well. I'm personally not a huge fan of the compromise optics. I know the irony of saying that as an LPBO enjoyer, but hear me out. If I'm gonna be using a fixed mag prism, I want all of the vision that I can get through it. If I'm using a top dot already, I don't care too much about the usability up close or on the move or on weird positions, so I would personally rather deal with the short eye relief but the full Nelson in terms of field of view. I think the TA11 is an acceptable choice, just probably not the one I would make. Now, I know that this is supposed to come out before SHOT Show 2025, but as of right now, there isn't much, if any, real competition to Trigicon's TA11 and TA31. The Leopolds and SIGs got discontinued, but if I were a betting man, I might wager that Primary Arms had a GLX or even a PLX medium magnification prism on the way to give these boys a run for their money. Or they'll just fail like all the rest. The Acog is dead. Long live the Acog. But that's about all that I got on this one, guys. Let me know what you think of the TA11 in the comments down below. If there's another prism that I should check out. And with all that out of the way, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. God bless.